The meeting to order. The clock in here shows that it's 7:33 p.m. Our first order of business with the Utilities Commission meeting is to basically pass the minutes of the Utilities Commission meeting of March 17th, 2014.
Move we accept the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that the minutes were passed unanimously.
There's an extra one in my...
Cash on hand and in the banks for the Utilities Commission, we have $838,896.27. Also in our capital fund, water and sewer hookup, we have $77,150. All right, our next order of business is the payment of bills for the Utilities Commission.
Move that the payment of the bills for the Utility Commission be accepted as submitted.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that it was passed unanimously. Our next order of business is Mr. Sipes' report.
Hello, Mayor and Council. A couple things coming up. Over at the wastewater plant, our UV system that came with the plant when it was new, the controller for it has developed something of a short circuit, so that it's not turning on all the lights when it's supposed to turn on the lights. Sometimes it turns on the wrong lights. And we've done some troubleshooting on the I/O boards and the main boards, and none of that fixed the problem. The manufacturer says that the controller is the culprit. So they're getting me a price on replacing the controller. All the radios that we have in our trucks for the Utilities Commission that we use in case of emergency have been upgraded to a new narrowband, including the base station here at Town Hall. So that if we have an emergency and the cell phones aren't working, we can still communicate with Town Hall and with each other. And that's all I have for you. All the blacktopping is done that we have as far as the street repairs. I did look at the one that was high out there, and he says about the only thing he can do to fix it is take it out and redo it. So he's looking at that.
Gotcha.
And that would be the one on Devon Drive. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Sipes?
You have any idea how much the controller's going to cost?
The controller itself is about $12,000. And then we have the labor to install and program it. Now, the thing about that is it's a sole source thing. We can't go to another manufacturer and get a controller for a Trojan UV system. We have to get it from the Trojan rep. So the total estimate, probably about $16,000.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be getting something in writing though, and as soon as I get it, I'll let everybody know.
Thank you.
I have nothing. I assume we get some kind of warranty on it after we put it in or something.
Yeah, they generally come with a warranty. We're not sure what happened to the last one. We went through a lot of troubleshooting steps. It's an issue that's been going. We've been working with the manufacturer for about 2 years. And the closest we can come up with is there was a lightning strike, not a direct hit, but in the vicinity. And the 4 to 20 circuit, which is what all the signals run on, it's a low voltage signal carrying. So it's similar to a telephone wire where you're sending a lot of information back and forth. If any current got to that, it could fry particular components of the controller, similar to a gate that won't open anymore.
Anybody else? Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation from Shore Regional Health. My understanding is they wanted to give us an update, not only on the remediation plan for the oil spill behind the hospital, but also to update us on progress they've been making on their emergency room expansion. So why don't we just have you guys dive right in? We'll comment as needed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, everyone, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you to update you on those three things.
Okay.
I'll start and give you a brief overview, and first by thanking you, Mayor, and members of the council who came by the emergency department tour we had a few weeks ago. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to take a look at our expansion project. It's not completed yet, as you saw, but we're making great progress on expanding the ER. At the end of the day, when it will be finished late summer, it'll have 18 rooms available. Those will be private rooms for our citizens, and we really look forward to getting the project completed, and look forward to expanding our capabilities for emergency services for the town. We also have a few other services that we're expanding in the town. Excuse me. Specifically, we have brought some physicians to Chestertown, one that specializes in diabetes and endocrinology. Those physicians are going to rotate, but they're going to spend a couple of days a month here opening clinic hours for our community citizens. And the other is for breast health care. We've got a breast surgeon who's coming up as well a couple of days a week to have clinic hours for community citizens in need of breast care. So we're looking forward to expanding additional programs like that and additional clinic hours with specialists here in town, and see that and the emergency department expansion as strong community support needs from the hospital system to the town. So again, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to stop by. Today I'd also like to give you an update on our progress that we're making with remediation of the oil. I've got a few guests here that I'd like to just introduce briefly. Mr. Dane Bauer, who is Vice President of Diversified Building Solutions, a consultant of ours. Ms. Melissa Hall, who's also with Diversified Solutions. We've got Patty Willis, our Senior Vice President from Shore Regional Health, and Trina Williams is here as well from Shore Regional Health. So what we thought we'd do is I'll start with just a brief overview of my perspective, since I'm relatively new to the process, and then I'll ask Dane to just speak to the technical aspects of the plan. If that's okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you give a brief history of what's there? Because I think, is that part of what
Yes,
you're
I think
saying?
Dane's going to provide that information for you. But I thought I'd give you my perspective. I've been with Shore Health about 2.5 years now, and like you, Mayor, I wasn't here when the initial oil process became an issue. Inherited that, but to really want to work collaboratively with the town and the Maryland Department of the Environment to do all we can to maintain public safety, make sure that the town is engaged in the process and that we're transparent with what we're trying to accomplish, and that is to remediate the remainder of the oil that's there, and work collaboratively with the MDE as well, so we can all be in partnership with a plan that gets us to that end. So I think I really got into this issue back in October of last year when we had presented an action plan to the Maryland Department of the Environment. And from that action plan, the town had several questions and concerns regarding that plan. So we listened, we stopped what we were doing with regard to moving forward with that action plan, and allowed MDE the opportunity to answer those questions that were important questions that you needed to have additional information on. So with that process, we also re-triggered the pump and treat solution process as well. So waited, wanted to provide the appropriate time for the questions to be answered. And then when we learned that those questions were answered a couple of weeks ago, we convened the town, the Maryland Department of the Environment, and Shore Regional Health and our representatives in an effort to sit down and just make sure we were all on the same page. I believe we all share the same vision of successfully keeping our water supply safe, keeping our town safe and from a public safety perspective, but also to do all we can to remediate the issue. So in our meeting, I felt good that we had good collaboration, good discussion, good transparency, and again, with an effort to work collaboratively with you and with the MDE to get this resolved. So I thought with that, I'd ask Dane to come up and say a few words about the technical aspect from where we started to where we are today. Okay. And then I'm sure Dane will open it up for questions and answers. Okay. And then we have some material we're going to leave you with that has additional information.
We have a leave behind for you that sort of has a chronology that you asked for, and on the back of the chronology there'll be a history of the free product recovery in a chart form that shows it from the very inception of the spill and how it was recovered, how much over each year, and how we got to a point a year or two ago where we weren't recovering any free product. And we were dealing with very small parts. So we were dealing with thousands of gallons 10 years ago in the recovery every year. We actually recovered 84,000 gallons total. All the geotechnical people that the hospital has hired over the years, and based on the records from the purchase of oil in the beginning, the estimate is there was about 100,000 gallons of original spill, and the free product recovered is about 85,000 gallons. Back in 2012, when we did a summary of all this for the Maryland Department of the Environment, we were able to determine at that point that we had to move into a different phase of remediation. Pump and treat recovered a lot of product, but now after, I'd say 2.5 years running, we were just getting trace amounts, measurable amounts, detect levels, some non-detect levels, very, very low concentrations, and we weren't recovering free product.
Can you explain what pump and treat is?
Yeah.
How that works?
Pump and treat really serves two purposes. You construct wells and you put pumps in them and you pump the water out. And when you have free product, a lot of what you're pumping out, you do oil separation and you separate the oil out. And then you run the water from the system that's remaining through carbon filters, and you remove smaller concentrations of the petroleum products. But the other reason for the pump and treat is it artificially creates a zone of depression around the pump field. It's not one pump, it's multiple pumps. And in that zone of depression, you change the gradient so that the groundwater no longer moves in its natural direction, which would be towards the town's wells. It creates a gradient that moves it into where the pumping range is. So by doing that, you keep the water from migrating down towards the town's wells. And so I guess in 2012, the department wanted us, even though we only had trace amounts, if that's the right term, to keep the pump and treat system on until we could give them a new plan. Part one of the plan was to turn the pumps off for a period of time and measure all the down gradient wells and to see if we were getting anything any different, if the concentrations would go up. And we started that, and I think it was like July of 2012. And for 10 months, we were just getting trace amounts and everything. And we thought that we had finished the job. There wasn't much of anything left that was in danger to anything. And that we could move from a remediation phase to a closeout phase. In the 10th and 11th and 12th months, the concentrations came back again. Under the terms of our agreement with MDE, we turned the pump and treat system back on immediately, which would reverse anything that was moving down gradient. And it would also recover anything that had built up. Now, let me tell you what's actually happening. It's not like there's a problem there one day and it's not the next. We convinced ourselves that it's not naturally in the water column when the pump and treat system is on. And that is because there's still oil product in the soils. And when you're running the pump and treat system, the water table is lowered significantly. So for those 10 months, when we turned the water system off and we're measuring water out of the test wells or the monitoring wells, we weren't getting any high results. And that's because the groundwater wasn't in contact with the soils that still had some stain in them or still had some product in them. So we went back, and I guess it was in August of 2013, realized that what we really had was a situation where the original spill had retained some level of product in the soils that were never cleaned. So when rainwater goes through it, it rinses some of it out. So you get some concentrations in the wells from that. Or when the water table goes up and comes in contact, and you know on the eastern shore it goes up and down, it would wash some of it out. So we had a lot of discussions with our consulting team and a lot of discussions with the Maryland Department of the Environment. The University of Maryland had actually run into somebody that dealt with these kind of situations for a living. He just happened to be doing a stay over in this town. And they met him, and they connected him with me and the consulting team, and we did a number of interviews with him, reviewed his work. His company's called Ivy International. They travel all over the world, and all they deal with is these kind of remediation cases with petroleum product where the problem has been going on for years, and there's a small residual left in the soils that has to be cleaned up. What they do is inject soaps into the wells, leave it there for 24 hours, let it rinse the soils, and then they pump it out the next day. And you usually have to do this for some days, sometimes some weeks. So we proposed a plan. MDE evaluated Ivy International, their history, their qualifications, their experience, and their product that they use. They're common everyday soaps that they have a patent for. It's a blend. We got an underground injection control permit to let us inject these soaps into the ground. At the city's request, this was a patented product, so we provided the information under agreement to the Department of the Environment. We gave them the list of chemicals. MDE locked it up under key, satisfied themselves that these were safe chemicals, gave us the approval, and then asked us to go back and to give them a new plan, which we did in August, that would use the Ivy International product and go into phase 2. So we've been in a pump and treat for, I don't know, a dozen or more years, and now we were going to go in and do a plan to inject, these are called surfactants, that's the chemical name for soaps, and try to wash the stain out of the soil and clean it up once and for all. MDE thought our plan was aggressive, and in an aggressive plan, you have to worry about it doing too good a job and the soils being cleaned too fast and the stuff migrating off-site. So MDE, in answer to the town's letter, suggested we do a pilot study first, and that the wells in the pilot study only be within the realm of the pump and treat system. In other words, we would turn the pump and treat off, let the water table come up, add the soaps, 24 hours later take them out, and then monitor the wells in the immediate area for 3 months, do a report to MDE, and then they would determine whether or not the pilot was successful. At our last meeting just a week ago, the town raised some good questions regarding how many of the wells we should put the surfactant in. We suggested that the town's consultant and Bud Ivy directly reevaluate the pilot study that MDE proposed and maybe take 1 or 2 wells out. We're not sure how that's going to work.
Can you tell everybody how many wells you have and how many are being proposed for the test?
Counting the injection wells and the monitoring wells, there's upwards of 45 or 50 wells on site.
And about how big is the site of the spill that you're talking
The
about?
site is not built, it's in the surrounds of the buildings right around the hospital. Matter of fact, some of the wells are right on the parking lot outside the administration building.
But you were talking about several acres.
Yes.
Yeah.
No more.
I didn't quite get that number. You said 25 to what?
45.
45 to 50.
45 to 50,
Injection
okay.
and
I
monitoring
thought that
wells.
25 to 50, you ought to know better
And
than that.
some come offline and online. When we did the building expansion, we had to take some wells out. We've not replaced them yet. MDE says wait until after we do the pilot to decide where they should go.
Those are all monitoring wells?
No, part of them are injection wells
Injection?
and part pump wells for the pump and treat.
Right.
And monitoring wells, I think there's 30 some wells.
And they're down,
No, they're all over the place.
Down
There's some-
slope, I would
There's
say.
some down gradient, there's some up gradient, there's some in the mean.
Did you say there are injection wells?
Well, we're going to use some of those wells for injection wells. That we pail it in. It's not something, injection. You take this soap and you take pails and you dilute it with water and you literally pail it in. So this is not a lot of high concentration material. So anyway, right now we're in a hold pattern. because we've authorized Bud Ivy to meet with and talk to Mr. Sipes and Mark Eisner. And we assume the town has authorized Mark to do the same thing.
Just so everybody knows, the town has retained a legal counsel who specializes in this field as well as an environmental consultant, Mr. Eisner, to
Mr. Eisner
assist us
is a
with it.
hydrogeologist, and Bud Ivy is a chemical engineer and a geologist. And we believe there's a lot of us involved, a lot of highly technical and qualified people that dealt with these in a lot of different situations. But we've decided for expediency, in order to get to the right answers quickly, is just to pick one person from each group, let them get together, make a recommendation. If they agree in the town and can agree, Melissa and I will put it in writing and submit it to MDE and get an approval. So right now, we're waiting to modify the pilot study. In the meantime, I can tell you, all of us who've worked in the public health field, the hospital, the county, the town, and MDE, we're all charged with the public health and welfare and safety. We want to get it right. There's no question that we all have the same motive. It's how to get there, I guess, and how quick, and what methods to use, and how do we get ourselves all on the same page. I think we're past the days of trying to come up with answers independently and then sell it to somebody. We have an idea, we think it's a good one. The pilot study that MDE thought of was a good idea. Now we're trying to weed out what's the definition of a pilot study, how many wells are involved, what is the success, what is the end result that we're achieving for. And that's where we're leaving it. We don't want to have a contest with anybody. We want to get all the consultants on the exact same page, and however we can do that, that's what we want to do. We won't be submitting anything independent to MDE until we've reached approval with the town. That's our commitment. So that's my summary, and I thought Ken wanted to sort of...
As a concerned citizen of Chestertown, I'd like to ask a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
I don't quite understand the physical array of pumps, and where is the source of the oil and the pumps around it?
There are maps and cross-sections and grading curves, and we've been asked to provide them to the town in larger size. We only had 8.5 by 11.
Just as an approximation, how far is one well from another in the circle surrounding this oil spill?
Well, I don't know. They could be 100 feet apart. They could be 50 feet apart.
50 to 100 feet apart?
Well, they could be more. They could be less. I mean, when you got 50 wells over a couple acres, that's a lot of coverage. That's a lot
of
wells.
space between the wells also, right?
Not from a geotechnical standpoint. Water moves exceedingly slow in groundwater. So we've got the area covered with monitoring wells, believe me. We're testing the smaller portion of them once a month, and we're testing almost all of them every quarter.
Testing them for what?
We're testing them for a full array of petroleum byproducts, TPHDRO being the most significant.
What I'd like to do is actually have the council ask any questions that we have, and then if you would be so kind as to take a couple of questions from the audience, because I know that's probably why most people are here. But I mean, from the town's perspective, the analogy that this is obviously not my area of expertise. This is about the last thing I thought I'd be dealing with as the mayor of Chestertown 3 months into my job. But the analogy, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that it's kind of like if you spilled a gallon of Kool-Aid on your carpet, the first thing you're going to do is take towels and sop up what you can get with your towel, and after a couple hours, that's not really going to get any more Kool-Aid, and you're going to have a big red stain in the carpet. So then you need to put some carpet cleaner on there so you can vacuum it up. And that's kind of the stage that we are at with this spill.
But it's like I'll use your analogy.
Okay, thank you.
Another one. If it was my house and I had to use carpet cleaners, I would worry about the carpet cleaner.
Yes.
So would Mr. Sipes.
That's right.
So that's what we're focused on right now. It's not will it clean it up. We've convinced ourselves, and I think you all, that using soaps to clean soils is a proven procedure, and it's worked in many places. but you do want to do it right. You don't want to add so much chemical that it bleeds into the rest of your carpet.
I think the
Okay.
challenge with this particular site is not only do we want to get it right, we have to get it right because it's in one manner it's very complex, but on the other hand it's really quite simple. You have a spill here and our wells are here, and if we screw this up, we're screwed. So that is why this is
We know that.
obvious. Yes, I know you know, but that's why there's a lot of anxious people in the
That's
community.
right.
Something
Well,
about,
in the MDE response, and I'll give you my other analogy, from a public health standpoint, they're very concerned about travel time.
Yeah,
And if you spill it here, how long does it take to get it a block away, a mile away, a quarter of a mile away? And they spent 4 months, and I can tell you a lot of the time they spent answering your letter had to do with figuring out what the travel time was. And they figured that under the hydrogeologic conditions, the formations, the groundwater gradient, that the fastest it could occur would be in 2 years to get to that point. Just following the natural, transmissivity of the soils and how long it takes for water to move from one spot to another in the groundwater. It usually moves inches a year as opposed to streams that move feet per second. If you can, it's a big difference between a flowing stream and underground movement. They said that's the most conservative or the worst case scenario. It could be that it could be 7, 8, 9, or 10 years to get there, but that's not the point. The point is you have to stop it at the property line because that's the law.
right.
Okay, and it can't migrate off the property, and we have to do everything we can to contain it on site, and that's the aim of the program. We never want to get anywhere near your wells.
That's good.
So,
on the groundwater flow time, that's theoretical. Your MDE is making an educated guess.
well, I think they're a little bit more than educated.
When your range goes from 0.2 feet to 2 feet a day, that's a pretty wide range. And we don't know the exact geology and flow patterns from that site to our site.
We don't want to argue the point.
Okay, so I think the goal would be to keep anything from getting off-site.
That's what I said,
Period.
off the property. Our aim is to contain it to the property and clean it up so that at some time that MDE feels the site can be closed out, there's zero risk to the town's water supply.
What is the depth in the soil that we're talking about?
Well, the water table can go down as far as 16, 17, 18 feet, okay?
But it's pretty
And we
shallow.
keep it that way by putting the pump and treat system on.
Right, but when you
When
turn it
seasonal
on,
high, when we turn it off, it can come within a couple of feet.
as
of
a
the
scientist, one of the things I know is that temperature is an important factor here. And so it might make a difference, the time, the ground temperature when we do this.
Well, the key thing that makes a difference is we have to have water in the area where we're washing the soils. They can't
Right.
be dry. So that's why we'll be turning off the pump and treat system so that the groundwater can come back up. We can do the rinsing and then pull it back down again.
So what I'm wondering is when MDE did estimates of travel time, whether they took
They did it on
temperature,
transmissivity rates.
whether they took temperature into account.
No, I doubt it.
And we're talking about warm weather now.
Well, we're not going to debate with anybody how long the travel time is. If it was
Right.
far, and we would have to do what we had to do to keep it from moving off-site.
Yeah.
The only time that gets to be a big issue is during the pilot test, making sure that that water doesn't move beyond a point of recapture.
Which is why you're talking to Bud and,
And one of the things that I got from reading a lot of the literature is that the cone of control extends approximately 90 feet from monitoring well 13. Anything that
do
gets
we want
past
to get
that point.
into, I don't think we want to get into these technical details at this meeting.
Well, I think,
We're trying
I'm
to give
gonna
an
throw,
overview so
I'll
that
throw-
everybody can understand.
I'll go ahead and throw this out anyway, and if nobody wants to pursue that. There are monitoring wells outside of that where we have already had detects. So it's not like we got the detect over at monitoring well 18 and we turned the system on and it pulled it back. That's outside of your cone of control. So is monitoring well 17, where we have 1 part per million.
This is why we're leaving it to your consultant and our consultant to talk about it, who are hydrogeologists and degreed in this.
Yes, I think there might have been an impression that if something goes wrong, we turn the pumps back on and it pulls everything back, and that is not the case.
If you have some, yeah, that's what we talked about at the last meeting.
Any other questions from the council? So
What's
The
next
time
step?
frame,
yeah,
we're hoping that we can get feedback from your consultant and ours within 2 weeks. Give us 2 weeks to put a new written plan together. We're going to submit it to MDE and hope to do this in June. We don't want to wait till August when the groundwater is so low that it makes it more difficult to wash these upper soils. And we've told MDE that that would be our best case scenario to do this sometime in June if we get everybody. But we told them we're not resubmitting until we have the town and the hospital on the same page. So that's sort of where we are. And I understand that Wednesday or Friday is when Mike and Bud have arranged to get some time, and you're invited to be on the call with them.
I got copied on an email that Mark Eisner wanted that to happen, but I haven't heard any dates.
Well, we've told Bud to make one of those days happen, so. Okay?
And I'm gonna throw something else out because it's sticking in my head. As far as the transparency goes and the timeframes that were outlined in the speech that you just gave, this hasn't been a transparent process the whole time. There have been issues with that, including since the meeting in fall, when everything was put on hold until March. Because there were documents that we were supposed to get, as outlined in the minutes of the meeting, that happened, October? In the minutes of the meeting, there were documents listed in there that were supposed to be provided to the town, and we never got any of that. We were supposed to be copied on the lab results, and we didn't get those till after we got the letter in March
I think we explained that.
on responses from MDE. All I'm saying is it hasn't been quite so transparent. And the system being shut off, the town, again, was never notified of that. We weren't on board with all that other stuff. We found out after it happened. And the result of that are detects and monitoring wells where there were none before. And it hasn't gone away because the system was fired up. We had detects in January in one of those monitoring wells. So I think we need to be very careful and not get in a rush. Yes, sit down and let's look at if this can be done safely. I'm on board. But I think there's still a lot of discussion that needs to take place before we start scheduling something to happen.
Well, as we've told the mayor, we have certain time schedules that we're just dealing with. This fellow who's an expert, Bud Ivy, is only available because he's a world traveler. And we do not want to miss the opportunity to get the best guy in the business. This is not just a local guy that does this in the States.
One more thing on the transparency issue. We've been asking what was in Ivysaw. And the answer that we've been getting is we can't tell you what's in it. It's patented. We can't tell you what's in it. This is what's in it. This is from the United States Patent Office. A patent in the United States is granted, it grants a person exclusive rights to use that chemical or process in exchange for making the information public. The only patent that doesn't have to be made public are things that deal with national security. So after all this time of asking for it, I don't know why anybody didn't say that's public information. I printed this out on the
He
web.
told us it was a protected patent, and we protected it under the terms of our agreement with him. And MDE said they were going to protect it too. As long as we gave them the information, they satisfied themselves that there's nothing in it. And we did it. We stayed within the letter of the law according to MDE.
My point being, that's not the law. This is public information
We have
that is
attorneys for
freely
that.
available.
We have attorneys
So
for
is it
that.
soaps?
It is a combination of 6 different things. that are used in different combinations depending on which process is being applied. Anyone interested, it's patent 6447207, and you can get it from the United States Patent Office. Has a lot of information on there, not only on the chemical names, but the chemical components. That being said, I also looked up the MSDS sheets, and there is nothing there that appears to be hazardous. But we're working with our geologist to verify that. Since I haven't had this that long, we're still working to verify that it's safe.
I
Thanks, Bob.
think the point here is that it's critical moving forward that transparency is tantamount to this process. I mean, this is kind of unprecedented, to be honest. I mean, I don't know that it's ever been tried in an area where there's drinking wells for an entire municipality at stake. And so it's very, very serious, you know, a very serious issue for everybody, including you.
FDE takes their job pretty seriously.
I agree, but when they turn pumps off and don't tell the municipality that contaminants are heading downhill towards their wells, that's not a really great way to set an example for us that we can trust them.
Well, Ken and I were moving forward in a spirit of openness, and I think we've
I
shared that.
agree. Right now, this is a good start. It's nice, and I also have to say, as a guy who works in education, I need to defer to my utilities guy to know the most about this. And if he's not comfortable with the process, then I'm not super comfortable with the process, because he knows 8 billion times more about this than anybody sitting at this table put together. So I have to support my guy. And, you know, I'm curious that maybe Ivysol is this wonder soap that's going to free the oil from the soil and we can actually pump the rest of it out. But I'll tell you this, even if MDE is fully satisfied that this is 100% remediated, I'm going to demand that we have a series of monitoring wells down gradient this that are active in perpetuity.
We've actually proposed that.
And that's
That's
an
good.
excellent point, because when they shut the system off, I don't know anyone that I've talked to that thought the oil was gone. They shut the system off, the presence of oil was noticeable, you could smell it. But if they'd have gotten to that 1 year point, the closeout point, I don't know how that could have ever been a closeout point. So that's part of the concern, is how after you have this site and different experts that you talk to tell you different things. Some of the people that information that I've heard, when you have a spill like that that's subsurface, when you do that liquid phase extraction, you're going to get 50% of it. If you get 75% of it, you've done an amazing job. Which means we've still got at least 20,000 gallons of oil there.
That's not necessarily true, but we don't want to get into this. This is for high-level technical experts. and
I
don't-
agree, but-
I don't claim to be one of them.
I agree with you that it's kind of for the experts to decide, but it's also important for you to understand.
Our concerns.
My only point in that was only to say that it was almost closed out. Before we even knew that it was being closed out, it was almost closed out. Another month or two of good lab results, everybody walks away. We have to avoid that. There has to be long-term monitoring to make sure that if there is something there when the process is done, it doesn't move off-site.
Have we got monitoring wells outside the hospital property?
Some of the monitoring wells are out on campus. The furthest away, I believe, is right across Campus Avenue on the corner.
Is that yellow circle? That's on the
Are they yellow
pavement?
circles?
I'm
I'm not sure.
I noticed something today, it was a yellow circle with a dash on
Are
it.
those
I got
separate
the
from
map.
the monitoring wells?
There's a map.
Yeah.
Here's the monitoring wells. It's kind of taped together because I didn't have a big sheet of paper. So if you turn it right side up, going toward the right is going toward the water plant. So there's Campus Avenue, there's
Oh, I
one
got
on
you,
each
I
side.
got you.
Now, if you look
Oh,
at
yeah.
that, you see monitoring well 18?
Yeah,
Product has been picked up there. So it's not on site anymore.
And our monitoring wells are separate from
holy
theirs.
cow.
They're all theirs. All those monitoring wells belong to them.
I see.
Are there any other questions from the council?
Well, and what are the residual effects of the Ivy-Sol? I mean, will it be completely taken out of the test? Well,
What we've been told, and right now I have no reason to say it's wrong, Ivy-Sol is a completely biodegradable product, made up of, I'll say mostly alcohol compounds. And there is no expectation at this point that even if it were put into the ground and not pumped back out, that would ever reach the water
It's
plant.
probably pretty volatile.
It biodegrades 90% in about 30 days. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you would expect 100% biodegradability eventually, long before it ever reached the water plant. The impact would be is what happens to the solution itself and what comes out of solution when you use it. And we have to work with the hospital on that and try to minimize the risk down to zero.
I do want to say that Mr. Cazell and all of his staff have been very open with me and Bob and everybody recently, and it's been, I just wanted to let that be known that they have been communicating as much as they can in the last several months, so I think that should be noted.
Byford.
Do you have?
Just in closing, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to
Absolutely.
speak to you this evening, and we're going to leave some information behind.
Great.
And there's some contact information for Mr. Dane, if Mr. Bauer, if you've got any questions.
Okay.
And again, thank you. I think you've summed it up perfectly, Mayor, when you said, there's two components to this, the highly technical side and the public safety side.
That's right.
We're going to work collaboratively together with you to make sure we address both.
Thank you. All right.
That's Byford Drive.
The water plant is right here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, we're going to move to the mayor and council meeting. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm David Foster, and I live about 4 blocks down gradient from this site of the spill. And I'm very pleased to hear that communication is improving. And I agree with you. Transparency would be a nice idea. It's also the law. The Code of Maryland Regulations requires public participation on sites that require a corrective action plan. It's not just a nice thing to do when you feel like it. The trust of this community is jeopardized by withholding this kind of information. Needless, it's a patent. Withholding, hide the data. This is insane. The trust of the community really is at stake here. Now, I was a riverkeeper in Queen Anne's County when Sudlersville or Centerville is a marginal change on the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus that goes into the water. Something that does not threaten human health, one iota. There is a public hearing that's required. Here, as Bob Sipes will tell you, human health is at risk. And this is the first I've heard, and we still haven't had a public hearing. We haven't had, I live 4 blocks away. All of my water comes from this. I never got notification of this. We changed the corrective action plan. I never got notice. I don't think anybody else in this room got notice of this. The communication has got to improve. The transparency has got to improve.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Watson, I have property on just below Campus Avenue, I think outside the grading. But I have a question, and that has to do with, it's not simply transparency and information technical, as David suggested, it's process. And I'd like to know what's driving this process. And is there some kind of way that you all have leverage as our town council to have more input into the process with MDE? Is there a consent decree, for example, if there's been corrective action? This is going back 30 years. So what's the process here, and why are we entering into it at this late date? I have been aware, many of us are, of the situation, and we're certainly sympathetic to the hospital. There's no doubt about that. But I think that we do need to understand a very well thought out process for how we get from here to a solution that, and I appreciate the commitment to the town that you'll all be in agreement, but what is going to be that process?
Well, this is an enforcement case, Mayor and Council, and under an enforcement case, it's an action that the department took against the hospital when the spill occurred. So typically enforcement cases are not public hearing processes. They're not. It's a case against somebody and they're responding to the department, which is what we've been doing. But that's just what it is. We're the ones that have had a situation that violated state code. They wrote us up. We're supposed to respond. We submit things, they approve it, we implement it. But we have proposed a consent agreement to the department, and we're drafting it. And we're committed to letting the town have input to it before we do anything with it. So,
Is MDE as well committed to such a thing?
yes. We've hired Mike Powell, who was the previous principal counsel of MDE, as the university's private legal counsel on this. He proposed a consent agreement. Ken said it needed to be an open process. We presented it to MDE that way, so he's drafting it. It'll come back to the town for review, and then we'll submit it to MDE. And it'll deal with the pilot study, what happens if you get this result, what do we do next? It'll deal with, we haven't seen it yet. It's still in preparation.
And ultimately, a judge makes an agreement.
No, it's an administrative consent agreement between the department and the hospital. And typically, they're not third parties involved, but we've committed that the town will be involved in the review of the consent agreement.
Yeah, I don't want to take too many more, this is not a public hearing, but I will, how about we'll stop with Alice's comment?
Thank you.
Please.
It's a public meeting. It's Alice Mack now. I don't live near the hospital, but we all drink the water. But my question really is, it seems as if this company has suddenly been discovered by MDE.
We discovered them.
Or you just discovered them, wonderful. Okay. I'd like to know how long they've been using this system or this chemicals that they're using, and how much has been tested in this kind of situation where drinking water is at risk. And in addition, I'd like to know what other alternatives have been considered as a possible solution to the problem.
We've provided a yellow tablet up there where you can provide your question and how we can get in contact with you. And we've committed to answering any of the technical questions that need more thoroughness in our preparation for you than we can give you tonight. So we just set it up here someplace.
It's here. I can say the patent was issued in 2002.
Why did you pass that yellow pad around?
Well, I didn't know that's what it was for.
we just-
It just got put here.
We just put it
It's
there.
not my job.
Thank you.
We will definitely keep you guys appraised of any new developments with this, obviously. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the mayor and council meeting?
I hope so. We have a long agenda.
Okay, we are gonna, thank you, Mr. Sykes.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, guys.
How often do the utilities
closing the
commissions
utilities
meetings
meeting?
last for an hour?
Pardon?
Yeah, we need a
Oh,
motion to
yeah.
adjourn.
We need a motion to adjourn.
With a
the-
motion to adjourn the...
I move we adjourn the utilities commission meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. So is Bill gonna come in?
Yes.
Half the audience didn't leave. That's not what most people were here for.
Hey, Christina.
I don't think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of copies of this. We should give.
I think they're for the audience,
Yeah.
too.
So this is a kind of a fact sheet on the history of this spill. If anybody wants some
I'll put
copies,
them on the table.
Yeah,
we'll
can
put
I
them
just
up on
have-
the
They're going
press
to be on
table.
the...
Liz, can I have one before you do that so that,
Do we need AC or is it all right?
just in case you want to put it on mine?
Chris,
Yeah,
if anybody, pointed out to the Spy article that I've,
Yep.
my comments, and, I mean, frankly, I'd love to lead a field trip up there, but,
Okay.
the hospital's not bad, but, a lot of things that can be said about the site.
absolutely. Okay, we are going to convene the mayor and council meeting. It's 8:24. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of April 7th, 2014.
Move that the meetings be accepted as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that the minutes are unanimously approved. Cash on hand and in the banks, total cash on hand for unrestricted use is $1,642,711.77. We also have the Washington College donation for restricted use of $200,000 for a total funds on hand of $1,842,711.77. Our next order of business is the payment of the bills. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
Move that the bills be paid as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Pay the bills, Jim. Okay, the next order of business is the Fountain Park Strategic Planning Commission final report presentation. I know, Liz, you have a few comments to make, but before you do, can I make a few?
I'm not going to make any comment. Not yet, anyway.
If you guys see some of the folks on this committee put together a really nice little photo montage of people enjoying Fountain Park. It's been obviously a central public open space in our community for a really long time, and we've kind of loved it to death, as I said at one of our last meetings. And so this committee was an officially publicly created committee by the mayor and council to study what can and should be done to bring the park, and especially the grass and the plantings, up to par with where we'd like them to be, and consider ways that we might amend the infrastructure of the park to better accommodate the farmers and artisans market. Linda, I don't know, did you get my email earlier today?
I'd like to know why that monitor's moved so we can't see it over here, to be able to see it.
I can see this one.
Well,
Got to straighten your neck a little.
Yeah, turn around.
We're still in this
You're
development.
not in any of the pictures that I've seen, Marty.
I thought I didn't know this was an audience meeting. I thought it was for the council.
So this report that I have in my hand is the final report from this committee. They did a really nice job. Thank all of you for serving. I know as a volunteer on the Planning Commission for about 1 million years, we appreciate it, and your services are needed and welcome. I actually sent Linda an email asking if you could just give us kind of a summary of the process maybe, and some of the major points.
There's some extra copies there's some extra copies if the audience wants to grab.
Yeah, well, I don't have a copy either.
The press table? Council doesn't?
I wasn't directed
He
to
doesn't.
give
Oh,
anybody.
you all got them by email, but,
Not me. It
5
must have been very late.
okay.
It was.
Chris, this afternoon we got an email. There was supposed to be a presentation tonight, and then I think this afternoon we were told there isn't going to be a presentation. So I made some copies this afternoon of the paper version. You want it?
I'd like to have it, yeah. I didn't open my email when I got back.
So what I thought we'd do is, Linda, would you be amenable to giving us an overview?
I wasn't chairman of the committee. However, since it was pertinent that the farmers market and the artisans were one of the main focuses of the park, I asked all the artisans and the farmers to come to the meetings, and it's my goal and my wish for the conclusion of the committee that nothing was changed in the park, that the park would be redesigned to accommodate all the activities in the park.
Okay. So some of the recommendations, and I'll just briefly go over them, and then what I think we should probably do is discuss this as a council more in depth at our next meeting, once everybody's had a chance to thoroughly review some of the suggestions. But I did get a hard copy and I made highlights. See, Barb? I read this. Some of the findings aren't going to be particularly surprising. One of the findings is that they did take some preliminary soil samples, and lo and behold, it turns out that there is unsuitable compaction of the soil throughout many parts of the park that are the most heavily used. The reason that's a problem is because it creates aeration issues and it prevents adequate amounts of water from permeating into the soil, which then stresses out the plants, the shrubs, and the trees that are nearby. So one of the first recommendations was, or one of the more important recommendations was, they are again urging us to fund a study of the soil so that we can have a plan for how to remediate the compaction, treat the soil, mulch, and water it so that we can adequately address those issues. Other issues that they took on was the fact that there aren't a whole lot of, well, there's actually really only two very clearly defined entrances to the park. So there's a diagram here, a really nice one that perhaps we should post on our website and put in the lobby. And essentially what a lot of these recommendations were to widen all of the exterior sidewalks, with the exception of the sidewalk on Park Row, which is already, I think, 13 feet wide, and very nicely actually accommodates the farmers. But having added the artisans, many of the other sidewalks are half of that width, if that. So some of the recommendations were to widen the interior arteries into the park, further accentuate and expand some of the entrances like this entrance. Basically all these corner and side entrances, they recommended extending the hardscape so that the entrances were more clearly defined, and that there might be some areas also where you could add some brick indentations to accommodate, sorry Leslie, to accommodate more benches. So expanding the hardscape in a variety of strategically placed locations was foremost among their recommendations. They also recommended that we look at the irrigation system and either replace it, fix it to get it to where it needs to be, look at replacing the electrical system, and lastly, this is something that's been bandied about, is while all of these repairs and remediations are going on, is that we consider an alternative location either for the farmers or the artisans or both while this is happening. So that's something that we need to take on. They did recommend that we have, that we phase in some of these repairs. I believe it was over a 3-year period, and that we set up a regular maintenance schedule, basically assessing the health of the soils and plants within the park in April. In July, we have a regular pruning. Basically in August and September, we recondition the grassy areas and then repeat the process in April. Basically, they recommended a regular cycle of giving the park a checkup and then acting accordingly at certain times of the year. Miles, am I getting the gist of all this? Because I'm kind of going by the seat of my pants here.
You're doing fine.
Am I doing all right?
Yeah, other than holding the drawing upside down. But
Oh, yeah. We'll post this on the website and we'll put it out in the lobby. But those were basically the major recommendations. Obviously, this is going to be a financial commitment on our part, but I think it's something that is obviously worthwhile because it's probably, arguably, our most utilized open space, not only in Chestertown, but possibly the whole county. And that's why it looks the way that it does.
I just want to ask
Sure.
something too. When was the last time that the town actually seeded or put sod down in the park?
5 to 10 years.
Okay, so I just want everybody to think about this. 5 to 10 years, the last time that the areas were seeded or sod was put down. So, and there is a natural compaction of soil, right, Miles? Wherever you are. There is I believe you said there's a natural compaction, right, of soil?
well, I mean, the compaction in the park is mostly just from people.
Right, but if over 5 to 10 years and nothing has been done to the park, I just want people to realize that nothing's been done to the park. So if there isn't annual maintenance, this is what you end up with. Now, if anybody has looked at the park, there was sod put in the park on Saturday. And the question from the farmers is it going to be watered? Water truck, is the irrigation system working?
Sod was Who put sod in the park?
I'm not gonna
Oh,
tell you.
Yes, the irrigation works.
There is sod that was put down Saturday, if
Where?
anybody wants to go down and
Oh,
look
hidden
at it.
sod, sneaky sod.
No,
That-
it's not. But the irrigation
Yeah.
system is working?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do we need a water truck?
We have a working sprinkler system.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
definitely maintained every year by Eastern Shore Sprinkler.
So, in order for this sod to take hold, can we, not on Friday night, water the sod that was put down?
Those sprinklers can be set to be anything.
Okay.
At any time of day or night. One of the reasons why we haven't really done a lot with the park is because we've been running almost 12 months with the activities in the park, and it's been, as of, I think about 4 years ago, we became concerned about compaction, and we just haven't been able to get people off it long enough.
Now,
And I started talking with Barbara about this last summer, and we talked about taking quadrants out, getting them reseeded, giving them a chance to take hold, and then moving on to the next quadrant.
and then my next question, as far as cost goes, what did it take to widen the Park Row side of the sidewalk, the bricks?
I think we
You
did that.
just drew a line and put more bricks in, or?
Well, we actually, with the farmer's market, I think some of the people here were there then, we just basically saw how far the sod got beaten down. We tried putting sod in a couple years with the farmers actually doing it, but it didn't take, so we added, I think, about 10 feet of brick there, and it was pretty successful. And then the farmer's market continued to grow and expanded into the center, almost to the fountain.
Barb, you had your hand up earlier. Are you good to go now?
I sure am. I think I would just like to add to what Linda had said, and that is that on behalf of the Chestertown Garden Club, I just appreciate so much being involved in this discussion. Discussion amongst this coalition of stakeholders has been most positive. We're all on the same page. We have learned so much from each other, and we stand together in this. And, you know, in this day and time when there seems to be so much anxiety about what everybody else is doing, I can safely say that we're in this together. So I think, Mayor, you're to be congratulated for putting together
Thank
a
you.
great discussion.
Yeah, so I think what we should do is let the council digest this report a little bit over the next couple of weeks and try to set a more definitive course of action and make this an agenda item at our next meeting after everyone's had a chance to.
Did you consider moving people off the grassy section to it? I mean, I don't care what you do to it. If you put new grass in there and you stomp all over it, we're going to have the same thing. I mean, did you consider moving them off the grassy section?
Well, if there hasn't been any maintenance for 5 to 10 years, why not give it a chance if it's maintained every year?
But you know, if you put grass seed or even sod down, and before it's really taken and grown and people are walking on it, it's not going to last.
There's also a natural path, not because of shade, but because of people from High Street right through here to the fountain. There's a natural path. People walk right there. You can tell that. Other than that, I mean, if you find a type of grass that grows in the shade, you know, I don't know what you're...
But it's not only
Your
a
answer
problem
is
with
no,
shade.
right?
We can't blame.
Your answer is no, you're not going to move people off the grassy section.
People will have to move around, I guess, when they do a section at a time, but you have nonprofits in this section every year, and the grass stays there. And it's not a shaded area.
Let's have this more detailed discussion at our next meeting. once
Yeah,
we've all
okay,
looked through it. But I will say, thank you for your work. This is, I think, a very attractive, new kind of vision, and it's you know, it's kind of modest in its improvements, but I think the improvements that you suggested make a lot of sense. So let's analyze it for a couple of weeks and revisit it with a plan.
This is an issue I care a lot about. I
Good.
will not be here at your next council meeting. I will send detailed comments. Now, I mean, I got this at 5:30 this afternoon. I haven't read it. I would make a plea that we not increase the impervious surface of the park. And so if there is to be more hard surface, that we look at alternatives to impervious brick. You know, this is supposed to be a green town. Let's do our best to keep an impervious surface if we can.
Bill, can you just make sure this gets emailed to us?
It was emailed
This afternoon.
Like I said, we thought this whole presentation was going to be given. I think the mayor did a good job, but I really thought that you guys were working on putting it on the screen. So I think it's better that everybody have more time to look at it anyway.
We'll make this an agenda item at our next meeting, and Liz, I know you're good for your comments. So thank you guys for all of your work, and really try to put this into action. And you know, one thing that we really should consider doing sooner rather than later is something to study that soil and get that process.
Absolutely.
Okay, our next item of business is the police report. Tonight we have Mr. Steve Lozar, Officer Lozar.
It was, it's this message. It was forwarded from Case. So it's not coming from.
I never realized.
We need the podium.
Well, I don't check my email.
Right.
Adam?
I just overlooked it since it was coming from Case.
All right, where's my police report?
Do we have a police report?
Yeah. Or at least I do.
Nothing for this meeting.
Yeah, police report.
No.
It might be.
Did we? I didn't get one in the mailbox.
I got a police report.
Janet always puts them in everybody's mailbox.
No, I didn't get one.
Yeah, you can have my copy and Marty and I will share.
Oh, Linda and I will share. This is not right. I hate getting things at the last minute.
We're starting to have that postal problem again. Used to have a mail.
2 days off.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Since this is my first meeting of the year, I just want to take an opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Sergeant Steve Lozar. I've been with the police department now for 10 years. If I calculate right, I got 12 and a half more years to go. So with that being said, March was a relatively good month. We had 382 calls for service, with Ward 1 having 16, Ward 2 having 129, Ward 3 having 100, Ward 4 having 108. We had 19 calls for service at large and 10 calls for service outside the jurisdiction, which is actually assisting other agencies. The most of the calls came on Saturdays. The busiest time of the day for the month of March is between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., followed closely by 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. For the month of March, we had a total of 28 hours of admin time, which is 2% of our total. We had 20 hours of criminal investigation, which is also 2%. 11 hours of accident investigation, 667 vehicle patrol hours, which is 51%, 40 hours of foot patrol, which is 4%, and 111 hours, which is 9%. There was a total of 8 hours of court, which is 1%. We had 133 hours of overtime. In the month of March, we had 9 adult arrests, 12 separate charges. 6 charges were for CDS, controlled dangerous substance. 2 charges were for failing to appear in court. 2 charges for violating a peace order, and 1 charge of harassment, and 1 indecent exposure charge. We had no juvenile arrest and no civil citations. In total, there were 11 Part 1 offenses, with 2 of them being cleared by exception. There was 13 Part 2 offenses, with 7 being cleared by arrest and 1 cleared by exception. In March, we had 23 motor vehicle citations and 391 warnings issued. The red speed camera had 316 violations, and we issued a total of 5 criminal citations for CDS paraphernalia, which is drug paraphernalia. Good news, Chief Baker, Administrative Secretary Legg, and our Assistant Secretary, Betty Lou Cruikshank, have received CPR and first aid training. We are awaiting the completion of our website. We hope to have that up pretty soon. And at this point, we are conducting interviews for 2 vacant positions. We hope to fill them positions in the near future. We actually have testing at the end of the week. The new police building committee continues to meet. We're making progress on that. At this point, I'm open for any questions that we may have.
Are there any questions?
When will the police building study be completed?
At that point, I'm going to have to refer to Chief Baker at a later time for that.
I noticed that we don't have, our children are behaving themselves. We didn't have any juvenile arrests and we didn't have any civil citations.
So far, that's going to change. That's going to change for this month.
Mayday.
Just a few.
Just a hunch.
No open
with spring
containers,
break.
all this nice weather.
And they're getting older.
Aren't we
Kids
all?
are getting older.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Town Manager, Mr. Bill Ingersoll.
Okay, we have 3 people under my report that I'm going to bring up now. Drew McMullen, Sultana downrigging request. Drew's always several months early to discuss downrigging, and he's got some new and exciting twists to discuss this year.
We're not doing 8?
What?
We're not doing
We definitely are. We have a couple visitors that were at the end of the report.
Thank you. Good to see you. You have my letter, the long one. You have a long meeting, so I'm not going to go through all of it. I can either just leave the letter as it is and take questions, or if you'd like me to go through the things that are new this year versus previous years, I could go that route.
I'd love to respond to your letter, but I didn't get it till today either, so I haven't even read
I got
it.
it like an hour ago when I walked in.
Did you get it? Or is it?
I'd suggest going through the new items,
The new-
because
the
we're all
news.
familiar with downrigging.
Sure, good enough. Well, if you look at your letter, the new items are marked with a red highlight at the end of each paragraph. So I'll start with number 5 on page 2. What we try to do at downrigging is try to get as many wooden boats in, both public, nonprofit, private, as we can. And in previous years, what we've done is we've worked with the marina and with the town to, we go out and basically recruit wooden boats to come in. We designate what slips they go into, and then we sort of pass them off to the marina, and the marina would take the payment and make the final arrangements. It's kind of a cumbersome arrangement, because they have to sort of make arrangements with us, and then they have to call up the marina and make a second arrangement. What we would like to do is have us be in charge of that whole thing. So we would be the final arranger of the reservations for those slips. And if you look on the map, you can see what specifically we're talking about here. We're talking about the uppermost pier at the marina. And actually, basically all of those yellow slips in the Marina Basin that are not leased for the year, which I think only 3 of them are leased for the year. And so that's one. We're going to get to that again in a second, so if you have questions, because there's going to be a money issue with that, so let's charge ahead. Now we're going to go to page 3, foot of High Street, item 4. It's Halloween for downrigging. It's been a while since we've had Halloween on downrigging, and it presents opportunities and challenges. One of the opportunities we'd like to take advantage of is to have sort of a Halloween-themed kickoff party at the foot of High Street on Friday. And one of the things we're toying with is maybe having some nice open-air fire pits, because it's a little bit of a chilly time of year, and it would allow people to stay down there. There's going to be the obvious question, is it safe? Are little kids going to run up and jump in the fire pits and burn themselves? These would be very, very small, well-monitored, basically one person per fire pit monitored things. That's probably the least important request out here. If you said no, it's no big deal. Do you want me to stop by request, or do you want me to get through and then ask questions?
Chris has got to abstain from this, so I think you should just keep moving.
Just charge ahead? Okay. Beer and Wine Pavilion. We would like to work with the Chesapeake Wine Trail, which is basically all the local Eastern Shore wineries, as well as the new brewery in town, to have a beer and wine pavilion. Why do we want to do this? Foot of the High Street, we want to do this on Saturday between 11 and 5. A lot of people come to Downrigging to see the ships, but the ships go out into the river quite a few hours on that Saturday. And one of the things we found is we need to have a certain number of events to keep the people who aren't going out in the ships happy and occupied. This is a fun event. There's lots of examples of these in Kent County and Talbot County. People tend to like them. It's a fun thing to do. It's a pretty easy thing to do. So it's something we would like to add to the festival, and it would be obviously contingent upon getting all of the proper legal approvals for it. It's very similar to what happens to Taste of the Town and at the Tea Party weekend already.
Haven't I bought a hot dog and a beer down there at the foot of High Street before?
You haven't tasted local wine.
Oh, okay,
from
so
the
it's,
actual
that's
people
the
who are making
difference
it.
from
That's
what
the
you...
difference.
Okay.
And we would still sell beer and wine at the foot of High Street. That's in one of our just regular requests. All right, we're charging ahead. Slip sales, page 4. Hey, we'd like to keep some money, just to put it out there. Last year, the town probably made about $800, I'm guessing, from boats that came and docked in the marina and paid the town. There's probably 6 slips. We lost about $7,000 last year in Downrigging, and we spent a lot of time attracting those boats to come. It's not that you just open up the marina and the wooden boats are like banging on your door to come in and tie there. We spend a lot of time recruiting them and dealing with their very specific needs. And what we would use those funds for, if we could have them, is to pay for our volunteer party for our volunteers and for the crew members of the big ships, which we try to show them a good time coming into town.
Is there any way that we can monitor the electricity and water use down there of those ships? If all those slips are occupying, the town is going to give up its revenue, but we'll have some expenses.
Yeah, there's the meter to the Can Street Pier as well that goes up during Downrigging, but I think you ought to look at this as a whole. The idea of the free slips at the marina is probably the most important concept that you're going to have here, because the marina is a nonprofit. It's worse than a nonprofit.
I wish it was only just a
It's hemorrhaging money until we get it rebuilt. But I'll let you all look at that. There are a couple of things left in here that I think will be mutually beneficial. The wiring to the foot of High Street. Yeah, please, just go through them all so they get an overview.
A couple of facilities maintenance issues. As Bill just mentioned, the electricity at the foot of High Street, there is an electrical service there, but it is tenuous at best. And for years, we use it. It blows very quickly, and we're consciously trying to put as little juice into it as we can. But I don't know if you can run a hairdryer for more than a few minutes out of them. And it requires us to rent, it's a pretty expensive generator every year. And not only is it the cost of the generator, but it also really diminishes the quality of the experience at the foot of High Street when you have a big generator going the whole time. So if the town could get a better electrical service in there, that would be an enormous help to us. And I think it would probably be a good thing for other events that might want to use that same facility. Basically, you have an electrical service down there that you paid for, but it doesn't really work.
And we have researched this, and we know that the college accessory buildings down there have either 50 or 100 amp. So they've agreed to let us extend it underground to that. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And the last one is just the lights at Chestertown Marina. During last year's Downrigging, a lot of the lights on the docks, as well as sort of the overhead quartz lights weren't working, and we have to go down there and sort of jury rig lights to make it as lit as we can, but it was very helpful if those were, in working condition when downrigging came around.
And they should be. So I don't think we knew that they were out because we fixed them last spring at the people who wore theirs request. So I think that all these things are easy for the town to do, but I think with waiving the fees at the marina, I think you have to be understanding of the fact that the numbers for the marina will temporarily be worse than ever. I just want you to understand that so that we don't get doubly whipped.
We do have
Not only that, with your yellow spaces here for your slip rentals,
Yes.
have you measured the water depth?
I know that water depth so well, you
Even
would
up
be
to the,
shocked.
even up to the fish whistle?
I
What, are you gonna
know
get
that.
a
Yeah, you can
rowboat
put
in there?
a 1.5 foot deep boat in there.
You're gonna put a rowboat.
Yeah, I've been putting boats in there for years, and I'm familiar. I go down there and sound it every fall before we make
And
it.
you have no idea whether it's, what's gonna be high and low tide through there?
We write a big
Scout.
contingency letter to all the people. That's
You get stuck
precisely
on the
part of the
bottom.
reason that we have to spend so much time with these folks, because we're putting boats and slips that normally boats don't go into at that marina. So we need to write a long letter to them, and then we call them a couple times to explain to them, hey, if there's a really low tide, you might get stuck. And so there's a lot of hand-holding involved. It's probably a week's worth of time for our staff to do it.
Hopefully we'll be 1 week before we dredge. We're really hoping that this is the year we get the grant funds we've been asking for 3 years.
That would be fantastic.
And that's, in a month, that's why we're having a meeting really about the marina. So to the council, I'd like to say that obviously at our meeting last week, the public told you exactly, or maybe it was longer ago, how important downrigging has become to the local merchants and local enterprises. And I think they're really 1 week short of us having no boats in the water in the marina. So if it was a week later, it would be even better. But I just think that we should do everything we can in-house, and we do a lot that way too, I think, that probably goes unnoticed, to support downrigging.
You guys have been tremendously supportive of downrigging, and it wouldn't happen without you. So, I should have started by just thanking you all.
Well, you do that pretty frequently, but I think these things we should do.
Will there be any renters of those slips that we have to kick out?
No, generally, they're
gone by then?
We didn't kick out any last year.
And we wouldn't do that. If someone was leasing a slip, we wouldn't. The only time we've ever asked anyone to leave is if they lease one of the outermost, the T-docks, because those are those are essential to get the haul ships in. But no, we would never pick anyone out.
Pat Diver will kill me tomorrow, but I think this is what you should do.
So, how much revenue do you anticipate from?
It says $700 to $800.
On the slip rental, about 800, it's about $2.25 per foot per night. And on the boats that we average in there are like 20, 25 feet. So when I crunched the math, it was like $700, $800.
That was a subsidized rate though, remember that we reduced the rate for the.
Right, I don't know what your
you guys.
standard rate was.
Yeah, it's more than that, but I mean, we've got a lot to do on the marina before it commands a higher rate. That was knocked down last year for this downrigging.
I mean, will this help you recruit more boats to potentially dock during downrigging?
It will, and actually one of the things we would do is, I'm glad both of those questions come together, we would probably still reduce the rate further, and that will help us attract more of the type of boats that we want to get, which are wooden boats, and a lot of these boats have to travel from further than your normal transient, so their expenses are higher. So we want to actually reduce the price that is charged for those boats so that we have a better response. Yes, it will help us get, or we hope it will help us get more and more diverse boats in.
So you're hoping to use the $700 to $900 to then further subsidize how much it costs to...
If we reduce the cost, we might only take in like $400 or $500. Like say it's $225 a foot we charged last year. Let's say we drop it to $150 or $125. So we're going to cut that amount of money that's coming in down. And we would use it, we throw a party for all our volunteers and all the people who bring boats every year, and that cost us $800 last year, and that's what it would go towards.
Someone's deaf out there.
Oh, no. Are you having fireworks?
Yes, we are having fireworks. We are Saturday.
Well, since it's my ward, and I love fireworks, I guess you can go ahead.
Hey, we all get to vote. No.
Were you going to make a motion?
I'll take 2 votes. You know, it's, oh gosh. You know, like Bill said, you know, that marina is hemorrhaging money. So, it is a money pit. The fire pits, what are the fire pits gonna look like?
I don't know yet.
Are they gonna be the chimneys or just the
I think they will be
round with the
open rather
fire
than
in the
chimneys.
middle?
Yeah, I think they will be open.
What are you using them for?
Excuse me?
What are you using the fire pits for?
Keep people warm, because it's chilly down
It
there.
is chilly.
1st of November, it can be.
Oh,
We
okay.
just also want to make it a little bit more atmospheric, a little bit more of a, you know, it is a parking lot when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, our struggle has always been, how do we make a parking lot an inviting, welcome, fun place for people to hang out for a little while? So, we're trying what we
If it's a
can.
hot night, you're still gonna have fire pits.
Now,
If it's 80 degrees out, we probably won't have fire.
Marshmallows for you.
Since it won't get up to Ward 4, I don't care, but I think somebody in Ward 1 might complain about the amplified music, but that's your problem,
I
not
haven't heard
mine.
any complaints about
We've done that for
downrigging
years.
before.
That's been
Yeah.
a long time.
I have one more question. Do you have any volunteers to help spruce up the bathhouse down there?
The bathhouse.
Are you using it
You mean the
Which
porta potties?
bathhouse?
at the marina?
Well, that's free also.
No,
know,
actually,
but-
we get charged for that. We always offer to pay for the cleanup of the marina bathroom facility at the end of the weekend.
You have offered it?
Yes, every year.
I was
I
thinking
meant
about
the
getting
use
it
of taking
ready.
the paper roll out of there.
That we don't get into usually.
How would they put
We
these
could kill
fire pits?
2 birds with 1 stone because we're gonna have the
I'm assuming
encampment
just somewhere
down
in the
there for the
parking
War of
lot, right in front
1812.
of my street, I can talk you.
But that's mechanical, you can't put
Can we-
fire pits.
Motion?
I'll make a motion that what was specific for the revenue from the transient slips for that weekend.
If I could say something, if I need to come back, that'd be great, but if I could get, well, I don't want to tell you what you motioned for, but for me to move forward with planning the weekend, it's helpful to get everything approved.
All
so I
when
can
you
get my
request.
permit.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll make a motion for all the new requests for downrigging weekend, as specified in your letter to the mayor and council.
Can I say one more thing, actually? I forgot one of the requests.
Okay.
The crossing guards.
I know, Bill, I'm making your life tough.
That's a Columbo move.
It's Halloween, and the last time we had downrigging on Halloween, we were very aware that there are a lot of people coming to town to see the boats lit up, and there are a lot of kids walking around in the streets. So our plan, with your approval, is to put either a professional crossing guard, i.e. a police officer, or a volunteer crossing guard at the intersections of High Street and Cannon Street with Cross Street, Queen Street, and Water Street.
You gonna put any in the marina?
Well, there would be one down at the intersection of Cannon Street and Water and Front Street. And yes, I could see one down at the foot of Cannon Street, but that's not a big destination for kids. That's more of a big destination for adults. So I forgot that in, but maybe if you could throw a police officer too. If not, that's fine, we can do it ourselves.
You're gonna
But you know,
pay
one
for
of the-
your own, you're gonna pay for your own police, patrol down there?
Well, we would put volunteers I was thinking we could do Water Street and Queen Street, because Cannon Street's a major state road, and I don't know if you want volunteers doing traffic directing
You mean
on a major
cross.
state road.
You mean
Cross
cross?
Street.
Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cross Street, sorry.
Are you sure you need it at Cross? I mean, I can see how you would need it at Queen and
There are a
Water.
lot of, I'm
Every year there are, whether you're having downrigging or not, and they're pretty casual about it everywhere.
Who?
The children.
The children. Yeah, they are, that's our
And the
worry. is they
casual
are
parents.
casual. Yeah.
Crossing guards are only good as the public wants to let them know. They have no real
Yeah,
enforcement.
crossing guard at night, do we do that? Okay. I think we'll have to work that out separately.
Okay, that's fine.
It's got too many moving parts, and we'll work with Chief when he gets back from Ocean City.
Okay.
So there was a motion? Is there a second?
Can I make it now?
You can make whatever you want. You're on the
Stop
council.
interrupting. Make your motion, let's go.
Okay. I make a motion that the new requests in the letter from the Sultana for downrigging weekend be approved.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
I didn't quite understand, what is the motion?
Well,
To
the new,
approve
the new
the
request
request
in
in this
this,
Everything on here?
yeah,
The
in
new
this
request, yes.
document from the
What
Sultana.
about the previous year's request?
Everything's good.
Well, I guess we'll, from the previous
We approved them
request
before,
and the new
or
request.
somebody did.
But you only
Yeah.
approved it for the year.
You got me, I got it. Be
Don't raise
approved.
trouble.
I'll just make sure it's all clean.
So, we approve the requests in the letter.
All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Drew.
Before Drew leaves, can I make a couple comments as a resident of that area?
Sure.
The last time we had Halloween on the same night as the downrigging, it was horrendous. We had people walking in the street Halloweening. We had cars who had watched the fireworks and were trying to get out, and of course wanted to turn around because there was no way to get down to the foot of Cannon Street and water. We had drunks because I don't think your beer and wine things were very well policed.
You asked that question last time. I don't sell
asked
beer or wine, except during the day between 9 and 5.
Whoever you hired to run...
I don't hire anybody.
Okay, well, whoever runs the two stands has got to be a little more careful, okay?
I don't think you have any evidence
Whether
that those
it's the fish
stands have anything
whistle or
to do with it.
whoever it is, they need to be more careful. We had teenagers that were drunk. We have problems. You got to remember, it is also a neighborhood. Downrigging is fabulous for the merchants and everybody, but for us residents, it's a nightmare.
No, I don't.
Well, I can tell you that we have moved the fireworks to Saturday, so the fireworks will
Good.
not
That
be on
will
Halloween.
definitely help, definitely.
Because we agree, it was very busy, and that was
Your
a little too busy.
idea of having traffic control, yes, you even needed it cross street because the people will try to turn around and go back up Cannon to get to cross, to get out of town. You need those volunteers or whatever.
That's what I'm
And
asking.
we need a lot more police protection. A lot more. We need them right now too, with college being out, almost out. But those are my comments, Drew. Just
Thank
let's
you.
make it as easy on the residents as possible.
I'm trying my best,
And
trying my best.
if that guy comes back with the horn on his boat shooting. God,
On that,
2 o'clock in the
you're
morning.
okay, you're okay on that
2
one.
in the morning.
Thank you.
All right, Drew, thanks.
Just bear with me on a couple. Leslie, Raymond's here, just to give you a quick invitation and a GAR update. We're holding on the website RFP final draft. Yes. You get back in charge.
You're right.
Oh, I'm still on. Yes.
I noticed the word quit. You said quit presentation, and I have one. I'm Leslie Raymond. I'm the director of the Kent County Arts Council, and over the last couple of years, our big project has been to oversee the development of the Grand Army of the Republic Charles Sumner Post. Just a very quick description of that. It's a building that was on South Queen Street. It was built in 1909 by the returning African-American Civil War soldiers. It was the home of the lodge for the Veterans Organization. When the last veteran died, it became a community hall, lots and lots of activity there. Then it went to rack and ruin, and then it was saved. And right now we are about to finish the restoration. The restoration grand opening will be the first day of summer, June 21st, 2014. And I'm here to invite especially the council and the mayor and the general public, which is diminished in here a little bit. I could tell the television public that they're invited. We plan parade, we plan music, we plan keynote speakers, and a ribbon cutting at 4 o'clock on the 21st of June. My many members of the board of GAR Post 25, Charles Sumner Post, are here, and we've enjoyed your meeting tonight, but I would like everyone to stand up who's involved in our production.
All right.
We're delighted to have everyone here, and we won't take any time. We'll probably come back and tell you more about it on another day. We have a few more months. But this is especially to thank the town of Chestertown, especially for being the lead on 3 of the major grants that we got, the legacy grants. And before that, we really got kicked off by Main Street Historic Chestertown. Without that organization, I don't think we would have stepped on board this moving train. So I just wanted to give that a little heads up about that.
Can you tell us real briefly, like once the renovation is complete and we have a big kickoff party, how are you envisioning using the facility going forward?
Going forward, I even have a little quick thing I'll read. Okay, how will a fully restored building serve Kent County? I have here.
Oh, you got it ready to go.
It will be an education center, essentially. We expect school children, both from Kent County and throughout the land, to come and see this place. It will house a museum. There will be a display area where we will be exhibiting art and artifacts, and a performance stage. And it's the very stage that Ella Fitzgerald performed on back in the 30s. We will be celebrating the history, the contributions of African American soldiers, artists, performers, poets, and musicians throughout the centuries. And we're looking forward to your participation.
Well, I think it already, I've lived here for 50 years. It looks better now than it ever did. I can tell you in that 50 years.
I want to say that too. I mean, I lived around the corner from that building for many years, and when we first came to Chestertown, it was completely covered with vines. I would say it was in imminent danger of falling down, and I want to thank you and your board members who are here really sincerely for what you've done to bring this really special piece of our common heritage back to life.
Thank you so much for this. I just want to add that some of the grants we've gotten, and both through the Arts Council and through this particular project, it's very much focused on economic development and tourism. There are people from around the world who want to come and see this place. It's one of only 2 left standing in the United States that were African American Civil War soldier lodges. So it's very, very rare, and we're very excited that we've had so much support and continue to ask for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
And now, the long-awaited RFP for
Why are you looking
Sam?
at me?
Well, both of you collaborated on this final website RFP for consideration by the council.
I just need a date. When do we want to have the bids in by?
I would say 30 days from the first advertising date would be more than adequate.
Okay.
We should know some of the people that are interested in bidding it already. They would directly get the RFP. Some are waiting for it. But
how do you market an RFP? Say, for instance, when you post it on the website for different companies to take a look at and bid on, I guess what's the range of companies that are going to be actively searching out bids like this? I mean, is there like a clearinghouse, if you will? How does this work?
I mean, for construction projects there are, and I'm certain there are for this sort of thing too. Can't remember exactly from last time how we did it. The RFPs control a little bit over who would bid it. I think we tried to weight it so that there was a function of community input. In other words, they had to maintain the thing, and maybe couldn't do it from Seattle. Yeah. So, but you are going to get bids probably that seem like they're geographically undesirable. We'll just have to see. But there must be something now that wasn't there 4 years ago in the way of marketing. Of course, it'll go out in the local papers on the spot. But beyond that, you might have to help us a little bit. on where would you look for something like that if you were a web builder? And I guess you'd Google that, I don't know.
Right. So we're ready to issue this RFP. When do we do it? Like tomorrow?
Start electronically, probably tomorrow. The paper comes out on Thursday. You have to get it in on Tuesday. It does have to be advertised locally. We usually do that twice.
And we put it on the website, right?
Well, absolutely on the website. And then pretty soon, I don't know, it'll spread, the word of it will spread.
So we should hopefully have bids in by, let's say, Memorial Day weekend in May.
Do you
So-
think? That's a lot of work. That's a big bid. Is that a fair amount? If it goes out tomorrow, so people will start to see it in another week or two. That's less
The
than a
sealed bid,
month.
let's work backwards from the final date. Do you have a calendar, Jen? So if we're just over into June, when's our June meeting? I think,
For a calendar? We're in Ocean City on the 9th.
I know,
It's the 2nd, June 2nd.
June 2nd, I'm just looking for a date, somewhere that gives us time to analyze if you would want to.
June 2nd would be good.
The 2nd and the
Sure. Yep.
16th.
Yeah,
So we would say noon on June, what day of the week is June 2nd?
that's a Monday.
Monday.
And that's our
Usually
meeting
get it
day?
on a
That's
Friday.
What we try to do is to open them before the meeting, so we can go over them.
So-
I doubt we'd be able to award.
The 29th?
How many days is June 2nd from now? It's a month and a week and a half? 40 days?
I don't think it's quite, because today's the 21st. 39.
So I said 40?
It's late.
Come on, guys, let's pick a date.
So,
40.
42?
40.
That's plenty of time.
Yeah, I was thinking about actually opening them a little bit before that so we could consider them on June 2nd, but I think there's
Well,
going
could we
to,
open it that Friday?
yeah, I'd say the Friday
The
before.
29th?
Yep. Are we working that day? It's not
Yeah,
like some-
the weekend
okay.
before is the...
I would recommend that
Memorial Day.
date, and then you'll probably find that if you get a big response, it's gonna be hard to analyze them by that Monday, but at least you'll have something to
We'll
say,
have
hey,
something,
we got 12 votes, 12
All right,
bids.
so the target end date will be May 29th, 2014, to receive the bids. Got that, Bill?
Yep, May 29th at noon,
May 29th is a Thursday, you know.
right? We mean 30th then.
Thursday. May
30.
29th.
Yeah, let's say
Friday.
May,
Friday.
let's say Friday, May 30th.
Right,
Thanks, Mark.
right.
Friday, May 30th,
Okay, 12 a.m.
PM.
12 noon, 12 PM.
I'm not going to be here at 12 a.m. that day.
About
You're
12
tired?
PM.
You're just thinking, looking ahead that you're already tired.
All right.
All right, that was easy.
Good job, Sam and Liz. Thank you very much for all your
Is,
revisions.
yeah, nice job. It's a representative from Washington College student veterans concerning the monument for Kent County's fallen soldiers for the war on terror here. No? Okay, next. We have the MS Society walk permit. That they've done that, I think, 6 or 7 years. Any
When is the
objection?
walk?
It's probably in that file, the MS walk.
I think it's August.
I've been looking for one in this area. I went all over the web trying to find out if there was an
August
MS walk.
30th.
August 30th.
8:30.
Yeah, I think it usually.
Do we need a motion to grant that?
May I move this?
Yeah.
Granddaughter who was diagnosed with MS a year ago. I'd like to move that we allow this permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You said August the 30th? Is that-
Yes.
And just to let you know, we usually sign these, the permit for the Tea Party Parade and the permit for the Memorial Day Parade came in, so I assume that that would be fine to,
Oh, let me finish this
Oh,
MS Society. Are there any opposed?
You might be after I hit you all up for
Okay.
donations.
The MS Society permit has been approved unanimously. And then, go ahead, Bill.
just the Tea Party Parade and the Memorial Day Parade are perfunctory, I would guess, so. Have
So
those
do we
already
not
been signed?
Changes from years past.
Do we now need a motion for those?
Sure.
Would anybody like to make a motion to award permits to the Tea Party and Memorial Day parades?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And I got an email today from Gil Watson, the rail trail cleanup committee that he chairs, is having their cleanup on Saturday, this Saturday, 26th at 9 a.m. They're going to meet at the Dixon Valve parking lot, bring gloves. They do a fantastic job. We give them plastic bags, and Alice, you're one of them. So thank you very much, and let us know whatever support we need to do.
I did it last year, and we got 4 or 5 truckloads full of stuff out of it. It's not there now. I mean, it looks so much better than it has in years.
But it's still really appreciated.
What time?
They they gather at 9 a.m. at Dixon Valve parking lot. And thanks again to them. The last thing I have on my report is we introduced the floodplain management ordinance, which is a necessity for us to have a FEMA program in our town for people to get floodplain insurance. It's ordinance 2-2014. We had our first reading 2 weeks ago. I'm asking that you pass it tonight.
Yeah.
You want to make a
As long
motion?
as we're not required to read it, I'm all in favor of it. That is one thick, long ordinance.
It's a state requirement, we have to pass it, pretty much.
I mean, I went through it to the extent that I could, and
Yeah.
Look at that.
knowledge I have. and it looks
No, it's fine. It's fine. We actually met, Case and I met with the FEMA guy, and we gave him some comments, and he said those were good comments, and that's slightly different than the state model. We, because of experiences with gas tanks and stuff in the historic district, we knew that they had to be anchored, they had to be underground, they had to be anchored whenever possible. So that requires some language that we added.
All right, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 02-2014, chapter 81 for floodplain management?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
You know, that wasn't an original thought I said. The Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives said pass the House bill so we can all read it later. So
Thanks, Marty.
that's a fact.
Anything else?
That's it, thanks. That's it. Said I'd be done by 9:20.
Okay, that's good. Okay, the mayor's report. Probably the biggest thing that I want to get accomplished tonight is I would love to have us work to set a date for the first public charrette to solicit input on the ultimate design of Chestertown Marina. This would be the first in a 4-step process. I've said this many times, but this first charrette would be to simply invite the public to come meet with us. We would present the existing conditions. Case and I have been taking photographs at low tides of the docks, the bulkheads, the flooding, all of that stuff. Then we would basically ask the public to comment on what they envision the marina to become, and then the engineering firm of McCrone would be present at that meeting. They would then take the public input from this charrette and come up with the first conceptual design. That would be step 2, and then step 3 would be to have another charrette where people can come comment on the design. And at that point, we as a mayor and council need to make some final decisions and finalize the design so that we can actually raise the money we need to raise to fix it up. So, looking ahead, we basically have a meeting almost every week through Tea Party.
We have meetings every night.
Yeah. The first gap that I saw, a week where we didn't have a meeting, was the short week after Memorial Day. May 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. I think this is going to be like a 3-hour doozy of a meeting / charrette, so. I was wondering, can the town buy like a bunch of pizzas? I'm serious.
Well, you got the guy who owns a restaurant right
I know,
there.
I didn't want to ask him.
Kind of hiding though.
I think we have to ask him first.
We have hors d'oeuvres.
I think we talked a little bit about the suitability of having the meeting down there anyway.
That would be
I think it's
fantastic.
a good idea to be on the site. We'll have daylight savings time.
So what does everybody think of that last week in May? Tuesday, May 28th perhaps, in the late afternoon, evening hours?
Tuesday's the
The
27th.
28th is a Wednesday. I don't know where you get your calendar, but...
Thank you, sorry, I don't have a calendar. Tuesday would be the 27th of May? Thank you.
That's the night of a commissioners meeting.
Okay. How about Wednesday, the 28th of May?
I can
Why don't
probably
we
make
do
it
it on
on a
Monday?
Wednesday.
Monday's Memorial Day.
27th? Okay.
26th.
6, sorry.
Wednesday, May 28th.
From what time?
That's like a stakeholders meeting, not just the public's
That's right.
stakeholders too. Neighbors, businesses.
Where's it gonna be at?
We're hoping to have it down there, may even have it in the big building that...
I think, my idea would be to have it in the big shed, as long as it's clear enough.
Could be hot.
Because there could be a lot of people at this.
Could be hot.
Or maybe in the
May
fish
28th,
whistle.
It should be all right.
Yeah.
May 28th. Put the tent up outside.
What time do you want to do it?
Fire pit.
Uh,
I know where we can get 3 fire pits.
What time, guys? 6?
Sure.
6 PM?
What did we say? Wednesday, the 28th?
Wednesday, May 28th at 6 PM. I want to say location to be determined, but we're hoping to have it down somewhere at or near the marina. And this will be the stakeholders and the public's first shot to give us some feedback on what they would like to see down there.
6 p.m.
You got that?
Yep.
When are they having the business meeting for the other?
We have to figure that
I
out
mean, the
too.
meeting for the other businesses.
Well, that might need to be pushed to June because we're so full.
C3s, there's not as many businesses in
I
the
agree.
C3 zone.
I think-
You should have another one because we.
I agree. I think we should set the goal of having the C3 forum, and set that date at sometime in June.
C2.5.
Maybe at our June 2nd meeting.
We'll do a 2.5.
Yeah, we need a 2.5.
Okay, Arbor Day festivities, there's going to be a little event on Tuesday, April 29th at 1:15 on the courthouse lawn. If there's inclement weather, it will be held at Garnett Elementary School. The third item on my report is a post-prom party donation request. Last year, apparently, we donated $100 towards that.
We have for the last
Million years.
8 years anyway.
That was the
I've been-
first thing that Marty approved.
This
He
is
was
a,
out
good
there.
job, Marty.
He
Well,
was out
this-
there asking for it.
This is a small enough amount if we want to
Actually, I
go.
was the original person of the post-prom party, so...
That's right.
If we want to give it the $100 again, I think we could just make a motion. and we
Yeah,
don't
make
need
a
that.
motion that we give $100 to the post-prom party.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
All right.
Any opposed?
Money well spent.
$100.
A lot of ginger ale.
Okay, I'm supposed to read this proclamation. It is April 2014 is Fair Housing Month. So I'm going to read this proclamation, and then I'll sign it. Whereas the town of Chestertown maintains that no person shall, on the basis of race, religion, color, creed, ancestry, handicap, or disability, use of guide dogs because of blindness or deafness, age, sex, or national origin, be discriminated against in terms of housing. Whereas the town of Chestertown has continually been a strong supporter of the principles of fair housing. And whereas the mayor and council, joining with the Board of County Commissioners of Kent County, have designated the week of April 14th, 2014 as Fair Housing Week in Kent County and the town of Chestertown, and now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and town council, joining with the Board of County Commissioners of Kent County, hereby proclaim the month of April 2014 as Fair Housing Week in Kent County and the town of Chestertown, and be it further resolved that the mayor and town council hereby encourage each citizen in the town of Chestertown to be conscientious of fair housing throughout the year in order that the town of Chestertown may serve as a model of fair housing. Signed, Chris M. Sereno, Mayor. There we go. The next item, there has been a beer and wine license request for Play It Again Sam's. It's essentially a renewal. They've had a liquor license, but they just changed ownership. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
I was not aware of that.
Yes, I was.
Pete Rocker sold the business. It's basically the same business, but a different owner, and she's going to be making a few adjustments. Her name's Carolyn, formerly Carolyn Stoop. I don't know if she's still going by Stoop or not, but do we need a motion to support this?
No, in the past, if someone had objections, they'd know to go to the county and voice their objections in their ward. It's been a few years since there's been any objections, especially to a renewal.
Okay,
I assume the liquor license transfers with the sale, doesn't it?
I don't know.
No, I mean, there's the expert,
What's that?
ABC Marty.
Doesn't the liquor license, isn't that part of the sale of the
They
business?
have a beer and wine on-off sales license.
Right, and doesn't it transfer when the business sells automatically?
No,
No.
they have to go in and apply for it. They do criminal checks on the people. who
Okay,
have-
sure, yeah.
have a license.
And lastly, Comptroller Peter Franchot is going to be visiting Chestertown on Tuesday, May 6th. He's going to be giving a presentation at 2 o'clock on the second floor of Town Hall. We're going to be inviting various commissioners, council members and whatnot to come to that, so I'm just giving everybody a heads up. And Jen and I are going to be working on sending out invitations this week or early next.
It's going to bring the dredging money.
He's bringing money all right.
That's what we need you for, Linda.
Okay.
Hammer it home. Okay. Ward reports. Ward 4, Marty Stetson.
I promised Bill I'd keep that. I sent him an email and he asked me if I'd please cut it a little bit shorter.
I offered you money to drop 3 of them out of there.
I will like to say that, start off on a positive thing. In Ward 4, I've seen a remarkable turnaround of potholes. The crews have really been out there working, and as some of the people in my area call them speed bumps, but we're getting them filled in, and they're looking much better. I am going to bring this up, though, and though you and I talked about it, and we actually looked at something would be a solution. I brought it up in the wintertime about catching people with these four-wheel off-ride things riding around all over the park. Well, the other day I was going down the trail, and here comes 2 kids on a dirt bike built for one, so it was going from one side to the other. And right behind me was a lady pushing a stroller. I got them moved off the park because I told them I was going to call the police. But we really need to post that only authorized motorized vehicles are permitted there. And I think I convinced Bill that we should do that today.
Because we know that'll stop them cold, right there at that sign.
I was really concerned, not so much about myself, of course I didn't want to run over my dog who was with me, but I didn't want to run over that lady with them. And they really could not control it because the guy was sitting sideways on the back of a bike built for one person.
What about the spikes? Do you still want the spikes?
What's that?
Do you still want the spikes that come up on the trail? Or
I want permission to knock them off with with a baseball bat or something.
Okay, so we don't need the spikes.
And the other thing, you answered that. We get offers from time to time for community service workers, and I thought it'd be nice if they cleaned around the trail. But since we have volunteers doing it, I guess we won't have to use our community service workers. And the other things on here, I am not going to bring up, so.
All right.
That's Road 4.
Ward 3, Sam.
I got an interesting request from a cycling enthusiast about the grates in front of storm drains and how I guess the openings run parallel to a bike tire. So he was inquiring about the possibility of perhaps replacing those with grates whose openings run perpendicular to bike tires, so nobody gets caught inside.
Right.
Didn't you just turn them around?
No,
They're not square.
So
you just
Which
need
place?
to tell me where they are, because they're very
There's a
few
lot
of
of them that have been replaced with the.
We've gone with it, and in some ways I wish that they would run them this way instead of parallel with the street, because leaves don't go in the ones that are crisscross diamond pattern. They're horrible. But yeah, it's a safety thing.
And then the street lights that were supposed to be replaced with LEDs, was that just a pilot run, or?
The ones downtown, they're still pilot. We can't get LEDs yet from Del Mar, to my knowledge. Now, they're supposed to be studying, we're talking about Flatland Road. We talked to them about intensifying them, giving us a study of what needs to be done.
Right.
They haven't given us that yet.
Okay.
The ones that we have out there.
Right.
We'll ask again about LED, because you know, times have changed, maybe they are available.
Right. I mean, I can't see it being too difficult replacing a light bulb.
Well, it is. I mean, you don't just put an LED in where there was a sodium or,
So, I mean, do you have to replace the entire
the whole
fixture?
masthead, the whole, yeah. But you saw it done downtown, it can be done. And some of those mast arms out there are pretty long because the poles are set back from the road. And really, the light has to be shown out more on the road. That's one of the things that I noticed.
Okay.
Almost every pole has a fixture, but we could probably add them to other poles and things.
Absolutely. And that's it.
Good. Linda?
This weekend, for 4 days from the 24th to the 27th, unless it's changed, we have the 5th annual Paint the Town event, sponsored by River Arts. And Taste of Town is Sunday the 27th from 12 to 3. And you already said Arbor Day is on the 29th. And the town was full of people and dogs Saturday morning.
Sure was.
It was so nice, you know, everybody was downtown. That's it.
Okay. Liz?
Well, I left town this morning at 6:30 just to go up to a client's and hit a couple of potholes that weren't there when I got home at 5:30 this afternoon, so thank you very much.
Happy ending.
And that's about it.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the audience? Yes?
I do have a comment. I guess I just identify myself, Christina Showalter. I just want to say, and not for the first time, that I think we're very fortunate to have Robert Sipes as our youth director.
Right. Absolutely. Thanks for your
Love
comment.
that Bob. Love that Bob, as the TV show used to go.
Any other comments or questions?
Jeff?
Yes?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, maybe the council people, or the council persons, could take a look at nighttime down at the marina, because the lights that are actually working are very, very dim.
Okay.
And there are 2 lights on the side street there, one north of the pump house, one south of the pump house, that very seldom do work.
Street lights.
Street lights.
Okay, thanks.
Street lights, and then the other light is in the marina, actually in the marina
Okay.
parking lot.
And for everyone here, please report street lights that aren't working because we rent them by the month. So when they're not working, we're still paying. And we really prefer to have the poll numbers on it. It helps us a lot in expediting getting them relit. But you're paying, your tax dollars are paying for those lights, including some of those. How about the ones out on the piers? Yeah?
They're off and on.
Okay.
I know, I haven't seen them in a while, but Baldwin was there. They're usually the ones that come and replace those bulbs.
Right.
And I know for a fact there's at least 1 or 2 along that walkway.
Because it came up earlier with the Sultana here, and I remembered that we'd sent Baldwin down there to fix them, and all it is a matter of telling us they're out again or they're out. Some of them had to be rewired.
Whose responsibility is it to clear foliage away from lights, but in particular, when the leaves are fully out, I'm going to be checking some stop signs in my ward that were obscured by shrubbery and trees.
We do stop signs for lights if they're up in the high-powered things, and Asplund does them for Delmarva Power. Again, it's a matter of letting us know. I've talked to Sam about where we own the street lights in Coventry. We have to trim around the trees because they're benign. But when there's high-powered, high-voltage stuff, and they're trimming out on the bypass pretty soon anyway. So, but let me know about this. Stop signs. Sometimes we have to talk to owners who have ornamental hanging trees because if we do it, they say we butchered them. So we just call them up and say,
A couple of
"Will you do
the
it?"
stop signs at Philosophers and
That's a privately owned
Philosophers
weeping
and
cherry.
Kent. No, not that side. It's
On the other
actually
side, it's
coming from the other
on
way.
the other side, it's like a cedar tree.
I think so. But as the leaves come out, I'm
But
going to keep
people
an
get
eye on it.
really upset when you trim their tree in a median and it's blocking a sign. It's like you did something terrible.
Can I ask one more thing? I just looked at my calendar. There was supposed to be a public meeting Monday, the 28th.
Oh, yes,
and I have
thank you.
baseball. Is that canceled?
No, that is still gonna happen. There's a public meeting hearing on the proposed baseball field at Kent County Middle School. Even though the plan has basically been postponed, we still wanna have it. I had it on my calendar, Bill Arrow had it on his calendar, we figure we'll still have it and see what the neighbors think about it and give them a chance to opine on the issue.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have a reduced turnout because they read the newspaper too.
I know.
As soon as
And
it's done.
it's been on the radio that Dr. Council
Yeah.
basically tabled it.
Well, let me ask Bill what he thinks, and, but for now, I'm gonna tell you that it's still on. Yes?
Hi, I will be working with Terry at all the festivities, so if there's
Okay,
anyone that would like to join me.
great.
I have a flag for you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I was just wondering if the town was aware that the college is holding for, they're in charge of the Maryland High School rowing championship this weekend on the river.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but is that where, there's like a little tent city at Wilmer Park, and there's a ton of schools that come down there?
Yes.
That's a great event, actually. I stumbled onto that last year. And if you haven't checked it out, it's really neat. Really neat.
What is it?
Is there a place to
It's a
stay?
big regatta.
Yeah, that's what, like, so if you go to Wilmer Park, there'll be like little tents set up all along the shoreline. There's people watching from the tents, there's people watching from the balcony of the pavilion, and it's like hundreds of people. It's a big deal.
This is rowing?
Yeah, so,
It's high school, isn't it?
yeah, and they come from all over the state.
I think the next, actually, 2 or 3 weekends where we have rowing regattas going on down at the park.
It's really fun to watch. Anybody else?
Who gives the permits for this, don't we?
Oh, it's all on
It's all the
college
college
property.
property.
We don't really have.
The pavilion.
Parks though. Where the tents are?
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a
I
motion
move
to
that we
adjourn
adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, I passed around a